Welcome everybody to another FYI webinar series hosted by Palcus. We're glad you could join us this evening. We are really thrilled today to have young Portuguese Americans, YPA, on the line presenting about their organization, how it got started. It's a very important movement, one that we need more of in our community. So today we have Jason Amarant and Daniel Mello presenting. And just a quick logistical item that everybody is in listen-only mode. And so if you have a question, you want to type it into the GoToWebinar console that should be on the right side of your screen. And then I'll read the questions out to Jason and Daniel. And then after the webinar, if you think of questions that you didn't ask, you can always send those to us at palcus@palcus.org. And so let me just switch my screen here. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Jason and Daniel. You just tell me when to click through the slides. Welcome.
Yeah, Jason. Thank you. Thank you so much, Angela, for having us and Palcus in general for all of the great work that you do and the commitment that you share with YPA for the community. And it's an honor to be here and talking about something very near and dear to our hearts, which is the YPA. So what I usually like to start off, anytime we're talking about YPA in a public setting, I like to kick things off by asking a hypothetical question. And that question is, what brings us all here today? Whether we're participating in a community event, supporting a Portuguese organization, joining a Luso-American Education Foundation summer camp, what is that underlying baseline question for the reason why we're participating, why we care so much? And when I look inside myself, I believe we're all here because we value our community and we value our rich cultural heritage. And these things are very palpable and they mean something to us. They make up the very fabric of who we are, where we come from, where we're going. Our heritage binds us together with a common purpose. It provides us with a sense of community. And that love of community, that deep caring about our heritage and our culture is really what drives YPA, and it sets the foundation for who we are and what our mission and vision are and where we're planning to go. So I always like to be very mindful of that. So that sense of community, all of those important values and lessons that we've picked up from all of the previous generations that came to America from Portugal, and really trying to build upon them, elaborate on them, and modernize them, if you will, as we move forward. So we're going to talk a bit about YPA, who we are exactly. We'll talk a bit about what we've defined our mission as and how we're executing on that mission. And then some of the really cool opportunities that we've been able to be a part of over the last couple of years. Some of the areas that we're working hard to move in towards. And then Daniel, who has joined as well from YPA, will jump in with more of those future-looking plans. So if you want, we can change slides to who we are. All right. So who are we exactly? So the Young Portuguese-Americans, YPA organization, simply stated, we're a collective of Portuguese-Americans. And although the Y does stand for young, we are open to any age group. The important thing is that you share the common goal of strengthening and increasing youth participation in Portuguese culture in the United States. So just to look back at the history of YPA and how we were formulated, PHPC, so the Portuguese Heritage Publications of California, they sort of had an internal mandate to reach out into the community to identify some of the younger youth members of the community, people who were youth leaders, highly involved, highly engaged, passionate, and they brought us together one night. We got together at the Fahrenheit Lounge there in downtown San Jose, and we had a great discussion. We started to talk about the state of the community and where some of the challenges and roadblocks were for getting more youth involved, and sort of what we thought the community could do to change that and where we saw the community moving. It was just a brilliant conversation and one that I will never forget, and we were surrounded by some of the best and brightest in the community. Angela Costa Simões was there, Angela Silveira, Nelson Ponta Garza, Bruna Ferreira, my own brother, Taylor Amarante, many, many others. But it was an excellent conversation, and it really got us thinking critically. We weren't an organization yet. It was not formal, but we had planted the seed, and that seed was something that we intended to water over the next few months as we embarked on planning our first summit. So that was sort of the kickoff of YPA. We created a summit. I believe it was back in March or April of 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And the whole goal of that summit was to bring people together from all parts of the community, young, old, first, second, third generation. We invited folks from the business sector. We invited folks from technology. We invited folks from the organizations and philharmonicas and people who sang in conjunts and people who really were the lifeblood of the community. And we had a critical conversation that day, and everybody got to share their thoughts on what they thought could be done better in the community and how we could rally the youth energy to get more involved. And we had a few hundred attendees, and it was well covered by Portuguese radio and newspaper, and that set the tone. It was like, okay, we are now an organization. There's some brand recognition here. People know who we are, but what now, right? So what are we doing now? Over the last couple of years, we've met regularly, and we're always sort of fine-tweaking the direction that we want to go in. We are young, relatively speaking. We're always evolving and growing as individuals, and as such, YPA itself is also growing and evolving. So what we thought we were going to be a couple of years ago may not be what we are a couple of years from now. But I can tell you today that our mission is just that, to strengthen, to support the participation of the Portuguese community in the traditions, the rituals, and organizations that make up our unique heritage. We can go about that in so many ways, right? And a lot about what we're doing now is focusing, honing in on how we execute on that mission. Our vision for the following year, in 2017, we want to become that platform for young Portuguese Americans to come together, to celebrate, to showcase, and stay connected to their Portuguese roots. And how do we plan to execute on this? Well, we're sort of deploying like a triple approach of mentorship for the youth. We'll talk a bit about that, scholarship and encouraging education, and also networking. So we want to connect with one another, we want to inform one another, we want to educate one another, and we want to mentor and coach and support one another. And if I had to give a couple of examples of that quickly before we move on to some of the things we've done over the last few months. So what do we hope to incorporate into this mission, into this purpose for the next year or two? Well, we want to be that representative voice for Portuguese American youth, whether they are first, second, third generation. The community has changed, times have changed, society has changed. There are things that we have to think about now that our parents, maybe our grandparents, great-grandparents didn't have to think about then. So we want to be that voice that can represent the changing environment around the young Portuguese American. We want to bridge the gap between the traditions of old and new Portugal and America. We want to create that social and service-oriented platform for the youth community to connect. We want to act as the protector of Portuguese culture and heritage and community and language. We want to be a place where individuals can give back to the community through their talents and time and energy. We want folks who have been disenfranchised from the community or just not very connected and very involved to feel like, hey, this is a great stepping stone to get involved. Maybe I can introduce my children to heritage and culture. And we've done that for a number of people now through YPA. And also an organization that showcases our culture both internally and externally. And we've done that with some of our programs that we're rolling out, and we'll touch on that in just a moment. So now, Angela, if you will, we'd like to move forward to sort of where we've been. We could go to slide 5. So touching on some of the things that we've done over the past few years, we're getting involved in some of the more visible events in the community. So if we, use Dia de Portugal as an example, so we're just setting up shop, we're talking about the issues, and it's always from a critical lens, right? We want to get into heated debates and discussions about the community. We want to know what the elder generation is looking for in us, and we want to offer up our ideas. So we try to put ourselves in places of high traffic, like Dia de Portugal, where we can not only build our brand, sign up people that are interested in attending our meetings and getting actively involved, but also just to be part of that discourse and adding to those discussions that occur in the community. And Dia de Portugal this year was one of those. It was very successful. We got to speak to a lot of people. Here you see a few photos of some of the members of YPA. Next slide. It hasn't changed yet on my screen. Whoop, I think that went back.
Sorry guys, it jumped ahead. Let me get it back.
No worries. No worries. You gotta love technology.
I know, right? We did a dry run and it worked fine, and then of course when we're live.
No?
It's like stuck.
We'll give it a moment or two and then I can jump back in. Okay, no worries. Angela, we can also, is there a way to post the presentation deck as well somewhere on Palcus if folks were interested?
Yeah, we definitely will post a PDF of the deck. So if people can look. So you can keep talking if you like, and I'll try and get it back.
Okay. Perfect. I'll just continue forward. All right, so in addition to things like Dia de Portugal, we've also been highly involved in Portuguese Heritage Night series. So a few years ago, a couple of us got actively involved with professional sports teams in the Bay Area, again, to build nights that honor and pay homage to our culture and tradition, and nights that also generate revenue in the form of donations to various organizations in our community. So this sense of service is very much in the DNA of YPA, giving back, helping, and not asking for anything in return. And the Portuguese Heritage Night is a great example of one of these things that we're very, very involved in the planning. I think we're in the 4th year of our Heritage Night series with the San Jose Earthquakes. We actually invited several prominent Portuguese soccer players to join us this year, and they came. We raised a couple of $1,000s for local Portuguese charitable organizations. And we're sort of building on that year after year. Every year we build a little bit bigger. So the Heritage Night with the San Jose Quakes was our first foray into this area. We've also established Heritage Night with the San Jose Sharks. Next year will be our 2nd annual. And Angela and several others have established other similar Heritage Night series with the San Francisco Giants, and I know that's been very successful for you, Angela, and the consulate office and Lino Amaral and everybody involved there. The Oakland A's have also sort of built on some of the momentum that we've started down south. I know several sports teams are doing something similar. So we have this whole movement now of recognition of the Portuguese culture and celebration on a large public stage that is professional sports. Why am I talking so much about this? I think it's important because young kids today that might not feel so connected to their roots or as involved in some of the traditional organizations that some of us were actively involved in may see Portugal and Portuguese lit up in the scoreboard of a pro team that they're a fan of, and they may think, you know what, this is great, this is cool, this is unique, I'm really interested in learning more, how can I get more actively involved in my roots? So I look at the Heritage Night series as a platform to give exposure to our community and our culture and to get the youth really excited. And it's really playing to this modernization of the Portuguese culture that I think YPA is looking for opportunities to sort of take those messages of heritage and of pride and tweak them for a more modern audience, finding a way to connect with them that's interesting and engaging, and I think the Heritage Night series is a great example. We've also been very involved with the Luso-American Education Foundation, and this is on supporting that theme that I mentioned earlier of mentorship and scholarship. So it's important for our youth to get an education, and we want to be on the forefront of showing them all of the different possibilities that they have in this world. I think that is so important for us to do. Kids today need to know, hey, there are many, many options. There are many scholarships. There are fellowships. There are support systems in place so that you can chase your dreams academically and then professionally. So we're very, very proud to have partnered with Luso-American Education Foundation for the last 3 years. We've attended conferences at UC Berkeley, in San Diego, in Tulare. We've also supported their youth summer camps. So in the summer, they put together camps with 50 to 60 kids, and we've hosted them. I've personally hosted them here at Google. We've taken them to the San Jose Earthquake Stadium. We've led panel discussions with many youth members and leaders of our community from North and South and Central California. We've invited guests from the East Coast as well to speak and represent what the youth community is like there. So it's really about connecting these dots and, again, showing kids, hey, there's a lot going on out here and we can support you guys any way we can. So Dia de Portugal, Heritage Night Series, Luso-American Education Foundation, these are just a few of the things that we've been involved with just this year. Next slide would be the Spotlight Series. So this is something that we rolled out. It's, you know, nothing overly complicated. It's merely looking at the community and highlighting, spotlighting some of the people that we think should be recognized. So all too often, I think we sort of take one another for granted, and we should stop and pause for a second and recognize the amazing talents, the amazing abilities and things that so many of us are doing day in and day out. We have an incredible work ethic. We have an incredible sense of community and service and passion, and it's great to sort of highlight those individual qualities from some of the leaders in our community. So we've looked at folks that are involved in folklore, in playing music and singing fados, in working for city government, in organizing IPMA awards, in organizing Dia de Portugal festivals. I mean, it's such a wide variety. The common thread there is these are folks that care, and they're clearly showing it day in and day out with their actions and how they're involved. So we just want to say, hey, via social media, we see what you're doing. We want to talk about it. We want to tell the world and show everybody what a great person you are. And as young kids come up and they see this, maybe it incentivizes them again in such a social media-driven society to get active, to get involved. So we're just giving them another platform to showcase their talents. A few other things that we've been involved with that I'll mention before I pass the mic on to Daniel to talk about the future. We're sort of becoming, you know, humbly, but we're very grateful to be invited to so many great events and community ceremonies and welcoming diplomats from Portugal, from the Azorean government, the Director of Communities. We've been invited to several high-profile premieres, fundraiser dinners. We've been involved and have contributed to IES and POSU and PBSJ and SCS and St. Anthony, and the list goes on and on. We've represented the youth community at the Candidates Night in Santa Clara for the last 2 years running, where the Portuguese community has actually organized a special night where everybody running for city government comes and speaks to us and addresses us at the Portuguese Hall there in Santa Clara. We've actually submitted a couple of questions the past 2 years, and both of them were asked of the candidates. So it's nice to have a voice on that stage, not just in the Portuguese community, but in the greater city and civil community. We've also hosted community mixers. So several times a year we'll do open meetings where we invite folks to come, network with each other, meet one another, and then we sit down and we talk about the community and the state of the community, and we gather ideas that we can possibly implement in the future. At the very least, we're actively contributing to a more open, more collaborative, more transparent community, I feel, for our generation. And of course, we've contributed and organized canned food drives and clothing drives, and a lot of really cool stuff where, again, we just want to give back and do our part. do we need to figure out a way to scale what we're doing so that it's not so locally focused? Yes, and there are always challenges associated with scaling for any organization or business or idea, and that's sort of what we're figuring out now. But I feel like I've spoken my mind quite a bit. Daniel, if you're on the line, I'd like to hand it off to you to talk a little bit about some of the stuff we have coming up. And then, of course, once Daniel's done, we're happy to take questions.
Great. Yes, thank you, Angela, and everybody else for having us online to talk about YPA. We're always more than happy to talk about YPA and to help others understand what YPA is. And Jason did a great job in those previous slides talking about our history and what we do and other aspects of YPA. I want to talk a little bit about the future, what we have in the works for the next year or so, and how you could get involved, which is definitely very important. So let's look at the slide that reads "We will." So some of the things we have coming up, because a lot of people oftentimes understandably ask, great, we understand your objective, but what do you actually do to achieve that objective, which is a great question. So we always like to talk about that as much as possible. But as you can see, we definitely think volunteering and supporting our local community is very, very important because, as you know good well, there's very noble. It's a very noble quest, to help out the people and the community that's given so much to you. So as you can see at the top of the slide, we have a POSU, the Benefit Society in San Jose. They give a lot to the community, not just to Portuguese people, but to people in need in general. And so we like to help them out as much as possible by volunteering, especially during the holiday season, like during their Thanksgiving luncheon, which will be November 19th, a Christmas open house on December 10th as well, and then the Noite Portuguesa the 28th of January. And so we help out in community events like these in a variety of ways. We help serve food, we help organize whatever they need help with, and it's of course an all volunteer basis. It's those are the three we have planned as of now. Of course, in the future we'll definitely have more. Also, being a resource for our community. So we do this in many ways. Recently, what we talked about in a meeting, the last couple meetings, has been helping the Portuguese, in the independent Portuguese classes that exist here in California, helping spread their information to people, because oftentimes a lot of these Portuguese classes, for example, are small, they're private, they're usually done through a local Portuguese hall or whatnot, and so sometimes they need help definitely with spreading the word about what they offer and so on and so forth. And of course we're definitely support it and we help out, so we try to help spread the word about these classes mainly through social media, and so that's what we've been focusing on lately. We're getting the information now, and then you could expect to see something similar to Spotlights, our Spotlight series, but instead of individuals, it would be for Portuguese classes, to connect you guys to some of these classes, because we have to remember that many people want these classes, but may not know how to access them, may not know how to sign up, may not know the people. So we kind of plan on working as a bridge to connect it to. So you could look for that in the future, especially on Facebook. And of course, that third bullet point, we're always looking to grow our organization. And of course, with any nonprofits, that's a key goal. We have open meetings periodically, so we have our next one coming up planned for November of this month, or of this year, so next month basically. And actually, you don't actually have to wait for an open meeting. If you would like to join our next call, Skype call, usually we meet via Skype. Some of us will meet, if we live together, we'll meet in one place, one physical location, like somebody's house or a restaurant. And then the rest of us who live further out will connect via Skype. And you could join right then and there, and that's totally fine. We absolutely have no requirements. There's no open enrollment policy or anything like that. So I also wanted to read these sentences here because I think it really encapsulates who we are and what our attitude is towards new members. So it reads, as a relatively new and very inclusive group, YPA is always looking for members to help in any way possible. Meetings are usually held once a month, with most members connecting via Skype. The only requirement is the desire to support the Portuguese-American community. And I think it's very important, I think, that I spend a couple of minutes talking about that. We're very inclusive, and we think that's important. Jason touched upon this a little bit. We're not an exclusive group because we feel perhaps that some people might feel that among other Portuguese organizations, it might be a bit, or feel at least, some of these organizations might feel a bit exclusive, but definitely not YPA. We want to accept anybody. And a couple things I've heard over the past few years that I've been part of YPA, some questions. Language. Do you have to speak Portuguese? No, absolutely not. Everything's done in English. Many of us speak Portuguese to some extent. Many of us don't speak Portuguese at all, and some of us, of course, are in the middle. Location. Where are we located? Well, most of the members are located in the Bay Area, in and around San Jose. For example, I'm in the Central Valley. We have members here in the Central Valley, of course, all up and down the valley. The Bay Area, we have members down in Chino, Ontario area, as far down south as San Diego. We have members on the East Coast as well, in Massachusetts. So location, obviously, not an issue at all. If you're far away and you can't meet in person, like me, for example, we use Skype. So we just Skype in and totally fine. Ethnicity, of course, definitely don't have to be Portuguese. As long as you're just into what we do, that's totally fine. Beliefs, politics, none of that matters at all, of course. So again, very, very inclusive. We don't have too many or any limits on what you need to be or have or do. Just a desire to support the Portuguese-American community. And I think it's important to note as well that this is a nonprofit, of course, and so it's like an organization. So we're all just volunteering. We all have, full-time jobs and families and so on and so forth. And you shouldn't think that if you join, it's a commitment and you have to make every meeting. No, definitely not. Of course, we would love for you to make every meeting and help out as much as possible, definitely. But we also understand that you have your own life, and so just looking at the pictures that Jason showed earlier, just looking at pictures, we have people we have 4 members who just had a baby within the last 12 months. Okay, we have 2 members who just recently got married. She was in high school, but now she's in college, so she moved to the East Coast to go to an Ivy League school and helps out when she can. We have members down in San Diego and Massachusetts, like I said before, and we have members who are very busy working at Google. We have members who, again, are single, who have families, more than 1 kid, 2, 3, 4 kids. So it's very, very diverse, and we totally understand that if you can't devote your time for this event or for that meeting, that's totally okay, not a problem. What ultimately ends up happening is there's usually a smaller core group, I guess, of members who are pretty consistently, for whatever reason, able to join in at every meeting. And then there's members kind of, I don't want to say it's the outer group because that kind of sounds exclusive, but members who, for various reasons, mainly for work, they travel a lot, or they just recently had a baby or recently got married, they're not able to participate as much as maybe some other members. And all members are valued equally, so that's very important, I think, to note. We're definitely not hierarchical at all. We're very horizontal in terms of status in the group, so that's very, very important. And if you have a chance to meet any of us, I'm pretty confident that you know, you would like what you see. We're all very nice, very humble, and you know, we smile a lot. So we're definitely look forward to meeting you. All right, and one more thing. At the very bottom of that slide, we have a big event coming up in March, March 10th through 11th. It's the LAEF, Luso-American Education Foundation Conference. Like Jason said before, they have an education conference every year in the spring, and we have been and will continue to be a major component of the conference because it fits our goals perfectly for, you know, as far as who we are. You know, age doesn't matter, but, you know, we're very big into letting people, young people especially, understand that education is very, very important. We want to help them in any way possible to understand this and to go to college and to finance college and so on and so forth. So we're more than happy to participate in the conference, the Luso-American Education Foundation Conference, every spring. And of course, this March 10th and 11th, we will be doing that as well again. It'll be in San Jose at San Jose State. So that's very exciting. So of course, we could always use volunteers and helpers for that. So that's definitely a big event coming up. So let's go to the next slide that reads, Let's Connect. And how could you join? How could you be a part? How could you get a hold of us? Well, first and foremost, I think the best point of entry would be our Facebook page. And you can see a link right there, facebook.com, Young Portuguese-Americans. So in the search bar, if you just type in Young space Portuguese space Americans, it should pop right up. You'll see our logo. That's definitely, I would say, the main entry into YPA. From there, you can see what we do. We post a lot, definitely, and you can send us messages via Facebook, and we will get back to you quickly with whatever questions you have. Actually, that's how I joined YPA. Is about 5 or 6 months after they started, I saw their page. I liked their page. I kind of liked what they were posting, and once I thought, I might be able to devote some time to this group, I messaged them. I got a message back quickly, and I went to the next meeting in person and met everybody. Awesome people. I really felt comfortable, liked what I heard, and have been joining ever since. So you could definitely, join Facebook and let us know. We also have an Instagram page, Instagram.com/YPA Summit. Summit referring to the first major event we had when we started a few years ago. So YPA Summit. And we have a LinkedIn page as well. The full link is right there. We also have an email, and you can email us as well. We get back pretty quickly to email. So it's ypasummit@gmail.com, and again, ypasummit@gmail.com. So any of those ways work. I think the Facebook entry is the best, but you can email us whatever you feel more comfortable doing, and we'll definitely get a hold of you. Also, if you know any member, I'm pretty confident that any member, whether a current member or a member who hasn't been participating as often lately because he or she just got a new job or started their family or whatnot, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident that they will help you out and say good things about us and help connect you to us. So that's pretty much it. And I'm going to have give it back to Angela. If there's any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, just one question so far. So curious as to, as you're meeting people in the community and you're going to all these events, what's been the overwhelming feedback from YPAs across the community? Is it like, oh, I wish there were more of these kinds of events, or, um, I wish there was an opportunity to do this? Like, what's been the feedback from people you've been talking to?
Yeah, that's a great question, Angela. We've gotten to travel quite a bit. Because of social media and technology and the internet, we're sort of able to connect all over fairly easily. But in my travels, in conversations that I've had with folks in the community, I've heard a couple of things. One, from the youth at least, is a positive. It's a positive response.
Right.
Many of them want to get more involved. They just don't know how. And
Right.
I sort of like to pitch YPA as, come, like Daniel mentioned, come somewhere that's inclusive. Guys, we haven't figured everything out. We don't know where the community's heading, but we're not going to sit back and watch it happen. Like, we're going to be actively involved. So, most of that feedback has been positive, and people are curious and want to get involved. Some folks have ideas and will throw stuff our way, like, oh, you guys should do a wine and art night, and things that they haven't seen at the halls that they think would be super creative. And I tell those folks, like, jump on board, join us. Like, this is a place to get creative. This is a place to take risks. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I would reiterate that, and it's something that you both sort of touched on about the types of members in YPA so far. It's like you've got single people, and you also have folks who are married with kids, but are still willing to put in the time, even if it is, attending one meeting a month or whatever, to try and maintain the culture. And I will say, it is hard as somebody with a family, that it is hard to find the time to go to a meeting or help plan an event or something, but you have to make the time if you want the community to be there for your kids, right? And so I would say that's a big message too, is that yes, we're all involved in sports and extracurricular activities in school, and then we've got our jobs and everything, but if there's any way to carve out some time to dedicate to the community, and whether it's volunteering at the PASU thing, or whether it's, manning the booth at Dia de Portugal or something like that.
Yeah.
Or help it, like you said, jump on board and help plan a wine tasting, right? If that's something that you really like, because it's not going to happen unless we make it happen.
Right.
And I think that's one of my personal frustrations, is that you sometimes get a lot of feedback from people like, oh, they should do this and there should be this, and like, yeah, there should be. Can you help do that?
Let's do it. Let's do it. That's a great idea. You can be in charge.
Exactly. And there's help, right? It's not like they would be doing it all on their own, but we do need people to step up and take charge with some of these things, because, that might not be an event that I thought of or you thought of, but somebody else did. And so, hey, if that's something they're interested in, others might be as well. And we encourage them to jump on board and with this group that is inclusive and that is open to new ideas. And we're looking to shape, and I say we because I was part of your original summit, and so even though I don't attend the meetings anymore, I still consider myself part of the group.
Of course.
But, we get to shape the future of the community, right? I mean, our community today is very different than what it was 10, 15, even 20 years ago, and the community that our parents grew up with and the community that our kids are going to inherit is going to be very different. And so we have this opportunity to shape it and figure out what that's going to look like. So it does take work. It doesn't just happen, right? So I think
you nailed it on the head, Angela, when you say, now it's not about us, it's about our children.
Yeah.
And that, to me, there is no greater motivational tool than to look at your child, or think about a future child, for instance, if you don't have one, and just think of a world where they don't have everything we had growing up. This community gave so much to us. I talk about this time and time again. I attribute all of my successes in life, academically, professionally, everything that I've achieved and traveled the world and working for one of the best companies on the planet, I attribute it all humbly to the community and all the values and lessons that my family and the community gave to me, and that work ethic and drive and pride and wanting to do the right thing and help others. That has manifested itself in ways like I will pay that debt back for the rest of my life. So if, and this is sort of my call to action to anybody out there who's listening live or comes aboard later once this is posted, it's just like, think about how much this means to you.
Right.
And it's a duty. We have to pass it forward. There is no question in my mind. If not us, then who, you know?
Yep. Well, I think
I was going to say, can I add a little bit to what you had just mentioned before you maybe sign off about the question? Great question. Also, if you look back at, like when Jason talked about, some of our additional involvements, well, going back to the actual question, or the response to YPA, it's, like Jason said, been perfect. Everybody always consistently says, that is awesome. We need more people like you. We need more people like you. We need more groups like this. We need more events like this. So the response has been, in my opinion, overwhelmingly positive. And like I was saying on slide 9 with additional involvements, you see some pictures there and you see some of the things written there as well. That's just the tip of the iceberg. What you'll notice when you're part of YPA and you get the emails and so on and so forth, when Portuguese organizations, whether they're from outside of in California, outside of California, especially, Portugal, from outside the country, when they come to California to talk or to present or for whatever reason, they always want and are interested in young Portuguese-Americans. Not the group necessarily, but just young Portuguese people. They want to know what young Portuguese people are doing, how are we involved, how are, what's the future of the community here. Because strong ties between, like Angela could probably talk more about this, between Portugal and the U.S. is very important, not just for the U.S. but for Portugal as well, and for all of us in the community. And when they have these events, they oftentimes want youth involvement and youth attendance, so they always go to come to us and ask us, email us, hey, this person's coming here and they would like to talk to some young Portuguese people. They would like some young Portuguese people in attendance. They would like to hear what you guys have to say about this and your opinion about that. And that's very, very, very common. So they look at YPA, not just the average Portuguese person or at the hall, but even high dignitaries, if you want to call them, look at YPA and think, very, very important. This is very, very important what you guys are doing. We support you 100%, and so on and so forth. So that's another thing that we do as well, is help out with organizing, not necessarily organizing, but participating in these events, whether they're local, states, federal, or even among Portugal and the United States. So something to think about if you're interested in joining as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Thank you, Daniel, for adding that. And I think with that, we don't have any other questions, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up for now because we are coming up on the hour. So thank you very much, both of you, for taking the time out of your busy schedules. Thanks to those who joined us online. All of our webinars are posted to the PALCUS website and to YouTube, so you can view them anytime. So please share them with your family and friends. As a resource if you want to go back and listen. Here's our 2 websites where they're posted. And with that, I'll say thank you for attending and have a good night.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.